And you need to defend yourself all the time. As you may heard, I file a few lawsuits, and I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life, and they wrote lies, and I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest.
First Lady Melania's jaw-dropping $500 million lawsuit has thrown daytime television into chaos, and Greg Gutfeld is not pulling any punches. With razor-sharp sarcasm, he slices through Sunny Hostin's carefully polished image, exposing what he paints as staged outrage and hollow moral posturing. This isn't a simple roast. It's a very public reckoning, laced with humor, unfolding as the legal tension rises. Greg turns courtroom language into punchlines, precise, icy, and relentless. What used to be a talk show stage now feels more like a heated cross-examination, and everyone is watching.
I think she hates him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, so we can all
That's a
agree on
given.
that. That's a given. I also think that she wants to take him out. She does not want to be the first lady anymore.
They agree with you.
She doesn't want to be the first lady. She's destroyed the Rose Garden. Who hates Christmas? Melania Trump hates Christmas. She doesn't want to decorate for Christmas. She doesn't want anything to do with him.
about that. Yeah.
She doesn't want to sleep in the same room with him. She can't tolerate him.
Allegedly.
And she doesn't.
Yeah, how do you know all this?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know all this.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all.
Greg Gutfeld walked into the studio like he just struck gold. Not the candy store kind, not the casino kind. This was a different prize altogether. The buzz was unavoidable. Melania herself had filed a staggering $500 million lawsuit against Sunny. Greg looked like a kid on Christmas morning. No monologue needed. The moment practically wrote itself. Every detail was comedy gold. When a former first lady drops a lawsuit that bold, it lands right in Gutfeld's wheelhouse, and he didn't hesitate to take a full swing. Opening the show with his trademark grin, he teased, "Someone's about to get roasted." Armed with more than a microphone, Greg went to work, ready to melt Sunny Hostin's glossy image down to crumbs. From the start, the irony was impossible to miss. Sunny, long confident in her own moral high ground, had finally pushed too far. Melania, often portrayed as quiet and reserved, didn't say a word. She acted. The massive lawsuit, baffling to many, slammed into the media narrative like a freight train tearing through a feel-good movie, leaving shock, laughter, and disbelief in its wake.
Officially reserved Melania Trump is furious. The woman who wants to be first lady is taking on several media outlets that she says printed false reports about her personal life. Now Melania is threatening to sue. Les Trent has the latest.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege.
Greg didn't ease up, not even for a moment. He painted Sunny as the kind of host who charges forward nonstop, raising her voice and swinging arguments like weapons. The one who assumes she's always the sharpest mind in the room and talks over everyone else. As he dismantled the spectacle piece by piece, Greg looked thrilled. At last, and very publicly, her nonstop attacks on the administration had hit a wall. He called it poetic justice with a runway walk, joking that karma had shown up in high heels and marched straight into the courtroom.
Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Greg then sketched a scene of pure disorder. Sonny, he suggested, was likely panicking behind the scenes, acting as if a staggering $500 million lawsuit were just another ordinary day. Her team, he joked, was probably scrambling online, typing things like, "Is arrogance a legal defense? Pulses racing, nerves shot." He quipped that her lawyers were likely buried in old episodes of The View, hunting for the exact moment Melania decided enough was enough. Every sharp interruption and heated rant suddenly looked like it could be replayed in court.
So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
The irony was impossible to miss. For years, Sonny had cast herself as daytime TV's moral guide, the calm voice in chaos, the confident judge of right and wrong. But now, accountability wasn't just knocking at the door, it had taken a seat in the room. Greg stayed locked in, pointing out the sharp turn of events. Sonny preached responsibility like a rule book, yet now seemed eager to dodge it. The woman who once attacked every storyline with certainty had slipped from her own high ground. And the most striking part? The First Lady stayed quiet until she didn't. When that moment came, it echoed far beyond the courtroom. Sonny's sudden brush with a $500 million penalty became a clear reminder. Words, once spoken, can carry serious weight.
And then she bashes the company like they don't pay their workers.
Right.
That's like, so she's still like one of them, she's one of them. But I give him extra money. She's so sweet, that Sonny. Paul, do you catch The View very often? Is it on your DVR?
Well, it's the view into what? Domestic hell? I mean, what exactly is it a view into? And who came up with the names, if you think about it?
Here's a rewritten version that keeps the meaning intact, tightens it by about 20%, and sharpens the flow while staying clear and age appropriate.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sonny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Then came the real finishing blow, the honest takedown. Greg Gutfeld wasn't only aiming at Sonny. He was calling out the whole system that lifted her up. He went after a culture that treats constant attacks on conservatives as truth, especially when those attacks are protected by applause and friendly crowds. In that environment, sarcasm gets mistaken for courage, and people start believing they're untouchable. That illusion shattered the moment Melania filed her lawsuit. It cut straight through the sense of safety. Greg painted the chaos that followed. Nervous producers, frantic public relations teams, forced smiles on camera, and rushed attempts to rebrand the lawsuit as some kind of honor. He didn't buy it. For years, Sonny had picked apart Melania as if it were sport, even while Melania consistently spoke about dignity and respect for women. But when Melania answered with legal action instead of a post online, the tone changed fast. Suddenly, Sonny wanted sympathy. She was the victim now. Greg laughed at that reversal, because playing the victim doesn't work when you've been throwing the first punches all along.
One day, when we finally strip away this phony race war, it will finally expose this elite mentality. And we'll find out Sonny is just like Marie Antoinette, except she says, "Let me eat cake."
Greg laid it out simply. Melania was never the flat character the media made her out to be. There were no dramatic exits, no shouting matches, no public meltdowns. Instead, she struck in the most effective way possible, quietly and with precision. She filed a serious legal case, and that move caught Sonny completely off guard. Melania had been ready, waiting with a clean legal counter, while Sonny thought she was sparring with no one pushing back. Greg couldn't hide his grin. That kind of calm restraint stood in sharp contrast to Sonny's non-stop commentary. Later, as media voices rushed in to frame Sonny as brave and mistreated, Greg wasn't convinced. Not even for a moment. Acting powerful while no one challenges you isn't courage. Complaining about being silenced when you've never been stopped isn't heroic. And mocking others for praise isn't speaking truth, it's performance. Look closely. The difference is obvious.
It's about the View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But
here's a tightened rewrite that keeps the substance intact, sharpens the pacing, and trims it by roughly 20% while maintaining a clear, engaging flow. Greg couldn't resist calling out how The View would package the story for television. He imagined the hushed voices, dramatic speeches, and maybe even a soft piano playing at the end, all framing it like a national crisis. But in Greg's mind, the real scene was far messier. Lawyers pacing the halls, producers scrambling, and Sonny practicing her "I'm the real victim" look in the mirror backstage. His argument landed because everyone knew what would come next. Activists rushing to Sonny's defense. Hashtags flooding timelines. Familiar voices insisting the media itself was under attack. Greg stripped that narrative down to its core. This wasn't courage or reporting. It was calculated character destruction. The difference now was simple. The person being targeted finally responded, and she brought a serious legal team with her. Greg doubted Sonny could keep up the performance once the applause faded. When the lights shut off, all that's left is a heavy feeling in your stomach and legal papers in your hand. Outrage had powered Sonny for years, but this time it came with a price. Real money, not symbolic outrage. Nearly $500 million.
this dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sonny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs.
Greg didn't just poke fun. He broke down every piece of the act, the exaggerated eye rolls, the polished anger, the air of moral superiority. He said it wasn't genuine feeling, it was stagecraft, a daytime drama disguised as analysis. Once that illusion fell away, what remained was accountability, delivered not by critics but by a legal filing with the First Lady's name on it. He ended with his strongest point yet, calling Melania's move brilliant. She had watched quietly while critics mocked her accent, dismissed her as nothing more than a model, and laughed her off entirely. She didn't shout back. She didn't seek attention. When the moment arrived, she responded carefully and precisely. Using the law instead of noise. That, Greg said, was why the moment hit so hard. In the end, Sonny wasn't beaten by drama or conflict, but by consequences, something far stronger. Melania changed the rules, and Greg stood there spelling out this new reality line by line, smiling as each sharp sentence landed.
And I blame women. White women in particular.
About time.
Right, Sonny?
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing, how their husbands are voting.
Take that, people who say she's racist. You forget that she's also sexist.
Here's a polished rewrite that keeps the message intact, trims the length by about 20%, and sharpens the impact with smoother flow and cleaner language. She even felt the need to tell the audience how generous she is with tips, as if she knew her own tune wasn't landing. Just when it seemed Greg was finished, he turned back one last time, this time with sharper aim. He returned to Sonny's familiar style, like a chef giving a roast one final blast of heat. The dramatic pauses, the fake seriousness, the thinly disguised messaging dressed up as thoughtful insight. Greg joked that she could stretch a simple question into a long moral lecture, delivered with the confidence of someone giving a grand talk over brunch. But that routine was wobbling now, weighed down by legal pressure. Greg imagined Sonny on stage, surrounded by attorneys, desperately trying to spin a First Lady's lawsuit into some bold stand. In reality, he said, it was plain carelessness. He didn't let her off the hook. Harmful words don't become harmless just because they're wrapped in a smile. And now, that hostility came with a steep price. Greg smiled, picturing the moment Melania finally decided enough was enough. The legal filing hit daytime television like a shockwave. Melania wasn't only strong, she was poised. She used restraint as her strength. Quiet, precise, and effective. Greg even predicted what would come next: a carefully staged interview, gentle lighting, long pauses, and an effort to make the legal process seem cruel. Greg scoffed. In a courtroom, he said, applause and friendly nods mean nothing. When the cameras shut off, what remains is a simple truth. Someone pushed for years and finally met resistance. Greg wrapped it all up with his trademark grin. This wasn't just about a lawsuit. It was a broader reminder that accountability applies to everyone, even the loudest voices in the room. As the show faded out and the music rolled, he left one last thought hanging in the air. Justice doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly, on paper,